Hello and welcome to Nobody's Only Trash Here podcast, episode 31. The date today is the 17th of November 2013. Now, usually Mr. McLuckable would be joining me on the podcast, but this week he's apparently tired or doing something. So instead I decided to get some crazy Canadian in that you guys should already know and love.
Moo! Crazy Canadian cow here.
So today is a big day for you because I finished watching the new part of Lone Wolf.
Yes.
That was a roller coaster.
I have never had a battle like that before in my life. I was just messed up in it. Apparently, as comments are coming in, people are telling me it didn't have to be that difficult. I'm just an idiot. But, well, that's half the fun, so...
I definitely agree. So, definitely, even if you haven't watched the rest of the Let's Play, at least watch that episode if you know... well, even if you don't know anything about Pokemon, because you won't notice the mistakes. Just go watch it, because it was like a really good one.
That's why I sped up parts. I was debating cutting them out completely, but then I'm just like, you know what? Forget it. You won't understand my pain and my sorrow unless I left it all in. The actual recording came almost close to an hour, and so getting it down to almost 40 minutes was a miracle.
The best thing about you speeding it up, though, is that you had the silly chipmunk point in certain places, but you could still sense so much anger and frustration in your voice. So it was this high-pitched, ridiculous voice being like, "Come on!" like,
well, that's what I didn't want to lose. I didn't want to lose the pain and angry. I wanted you to feel the suffering with me.
No, it was great, but I was definitely thinking, like, because you know how you're going up against the Gyarados and you had Sam the Alpia.
Yep.
Well, you used Confuse Ray like way too late because, well, there's a few mistakes you made, but that's made it better. But because Gyarados did Dragon's Dance, that makes its attack really high. So if it hit itself in confusion, it would do a ton of damage, like it eventually did.
Ah. See, I don't think like that.
No.
I don't think like that. I need to learn to think like that, but...
Well, it takes years of wasting your time playing Pokemon.
Well, this is only my second game, so maybe by the time I get to 5th or 6th generation, I'll think like that. We'll see.
Yeah, well, this is the longest one, so you can rest assured of that knowledge.
That is what I've been told. But it was lots of fun, and there's still the ultimate final battle coming up, so...
That should be good. But
Tons of...
before we get into the podcast itself, I want to once again say, last week I threw out the email address for the podcast, and we got a couple of emails, and we'll answer them.
No way, people emailed.
I know, it's pretty cool. I was surprised. I didn't expect it. So I'm going to throw out the email address again. It's onlytrashherepodcast@gmail.com. Just the words onlytrashherepodcast at one word, then @gmail.com. Unfortunately, you can't really email any questions that you would have for Cowscrazy because he won't be here every week, so it'll probably take a while to answer them. But any questions you might have for me or anything you want to just get talked about on the podcast, just send it to that email address. And because we don't have many listeners, they will definitely get answered or responded to. Right, so yeah, well, it has been too long since you've been on because we hit the holiday season where games started coming out, and I think at the beginning of October, a certain game that I don't think you're a fan of it, but I think some sort of HD port came out. I just can't remember which game that was, though.
The Wind Waker!
Yeah, that sounds about right. That does sound like the one.
I will tell you this, though. I have had time to play this HD Wind Waker, and, oh god, I can't believe I have to do this. It's better.
Yes! That's growth. That's what I say.
It's still not great. Even if I could pretend the original Wind Waker didn't exist, and this is the only one they ever made, it's still not my favorite Zelda. But, do you know what? It could, if this was the only one ever made, it would probably be enough to surpass Skyward Sword.
Oh.
So Skyward Sword would actually fall to the bottom if this was the original. But I can't give it enough, seeing that they screwed up in the first place. But they didn't do enough changes. Now that's very contradictory to my thinking, because like most of the time when people remake a game, it's because the game is really good and they want to play it again. But in this case, I would have to disagree. When you're remaking this game, it wasn't very good, so more changes should have happened instead of less.
Well, weren't your problems with the game like the characters and setting and the story and the structure of the game?
Yes.
So, you can't really fix those.
No, you can't. You can't. And then the opposite happens, though. But, for basically the opposite reasons of Wind Waker is why I hate Skyward Sword, because the story's great. Don't get me wrong. I love the story of Skyward Sword. It's absolutely amazing, and it's probably the best story they've told beginning to end of any Zelda game. But that was the problem. They focused too much on trying to tell the story. This story was so important for them to tell that they forgot what Zelda was, which is just going around, blowing shit up, trying to find holes in walls to find a treasure chest here or there. There's no exploration, there's no fun, it's just puzzle after puzzle after puzzle after puzzle after puzzle, and there's no...
Didn't Wind Waker already have that large focus on a story and a specific adventure, though?
Wind Waker isn't that focused on the story. They try to, after, the first half of the game, it really opens up and you can do whatever the hell you want. And I have to give Wind Waker credit for that. At least in Wind Waker, I can explore the sea to my heart's content. There's no little... The boat doesn't tell you where to go. The boat doesn't tell you, oh, you better go and get bombs, or go and get your arrow upgrades, or go and get your rupee upgrade, or anything like that. It's just subtle little hints from all the little characters that you don't really give a shit about, but at least they're there for a purpose. And yeah, I don't care about the people, but the exploration I have to give Wind Waker credit for. And the little things they did better this time was they basically made Tingle almost irrelevant. You still have to use them a little bit. The speed up sail was a godsend. It triples the time you can go faster. And and I just... Maybe it's because I've played games... Usually when I buy a new Zelda game, I will play it completely blind because I want the whole experience. And then if I really like the Zelda game, I will open up my souvenir Zelda strategy guide program that I always purchase. I get the hardcover ones that come out because they're really nice. I put them on my shelf, and then I'll open them up and I'll go and find all the stuff I didn't get just for fun. But that's if I really like a game. Obviously I didn't really like Wind Waker. So this time I played it beginning to end, trying to get all the little secrets, all the little fun in Wind Waker. I've 100%ed it before, but not with a guide. I've just done it on my own. This time I followed a plan. I made myself a good route, so I wasn't going all over the ocean. And yeah, I guess it was... Maybe I enjoyed myself more. I don't know. I enjoyed the fact that I could play this thing off screen. That actually added to my enjoyment of the game. That I could wake up in the morning, not have to leave my bed, just reach over, grab my Wii U panel, turn it on, and start playing Wind Waker. So,
see, that's odd. What you said about the guide thing, because I had not an opposite thing, but I've never beaten Wind Waker, and to this day I still haven't beaten Wind Waker. But when I played it on the GameCube, I never bothered with the open world stuff because it was so dull. I just found it too dull.
It is very dull, but if you have... See, it's very dull, and it's almost not fun to do, but I found it better and easier to do if I had set out my route in advance, so I wasn't crisscrossing across the ocean a million frickin' times. I would visit each island maybe once, or I'd go from this island to another island all in a row. So yeah, I had a structured plan on how everything was going to flow together, and yeah, it just made it easier this time. But
well, when I played, well, the thing is, with the GameCube, I didn't bother with that stuff. But with the Wii U version, I did bother with the open world and found it a lot more fun because you got the Swift Sail, which makes it a lot easier.
Yes.
The HD graphics make it look really nice, and also because you have the Wii U gamepad on the bottom, and you can just go through your maps as you're sailing. Like, you can just set a course, just have your boat go, and then you can kind of figure it out as you go. And then you got all like the fish tips and things like that. So I felt the process was like streamlined to a point where it was actually enjoyable in this one.
yeah, I'll give them credit. They taken this game that I've really hated and really thought was boring, and it's still basically, it's 95% the same game, but somehow it's just more fun this time, and it's still not great, but I'll move it up there, and maybe in the future now, all my hatred and all my anger will spew out towards Skyward Sword.
Does Skyward Sword not have that moment then, like in every other Zelda game, where it's like, oh, you've got so far in the game, now we're going to open it up and you can explore all the world and find all the extra stuff you missed?
No, it does not have that moment. I felt like in both Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, it took too long to get to that moment. Where it really opens up, it took way too long to get to that moment. Where like technically it's not open to you in games like my favorite game, A Link to the Past, Ocarina of Time. Those games, it's not completely open to you before like the first 3 dungeons, but it sort of doesn't feel closed either, if you understand what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
it still feels like you can go anywhere the hell you want, but they still want you to do it in a certain way up to a point, right? But I don't know, I just felt like Wind Waker, especially Wind Waker, where like if you try to go anywhere in the sea, the boat's just like, no, you can't do that yet, no. But
well, the problem with Wind Waker was that with Twilight Princess, yeah, you were opening up the world by doing all the wolf sections, but it was still, there was a lot of dungeons in that game, so doing 3 at the beginning was fine. But with Wind Waker, you had to do...
Well, that's why it felt longer for it to get more open, yeah. But with Wind Waker, there's only the 2 dungeons.
Yeah, there's not that many dungeons in the whole game, so for you to have to do the 2 Pearl ones and then Forsaken Fortress, it's like, that's a chunk of the game, and a chunk of the game's puzzles before you could then do what you want. That's
exactly.
Pretty terrible.
And it is pretty terrible. And, yeah, there isn't that moment in Skyward Sword at all. Like, you have to do your 3 dungeons, and then you think it opens up. And it really doesn't, because it tells you that you have to go to the 4th one. And then there's sort of a choice that you can make, but if you didn't download the patch, the game will glitch on you at that point if you do it out of the order they want you to do it.
Wonderful.
You can't. It still tells you to do it the way they want you to do it, but you can technically do them out of order. Just you would never think of it because the game is making you go towards these goals all the time. Like, the sword keeps telling you where to go, and people keep telling you where to go. So you would never think that you would have all of a sudden a moment. But like, really, your choice is between 2 dungeons after you've already done 4, and you're not really going to think about it. Like, wow, I have a choice, really? So you don't really understand that you have a choice, but you do.
But
so,
surely
yeah,
it seems like, though, because all the other Zelda games have had not bad stories, but not story focused, and had it been non-linear for the most part. And then surely with Skyward Sword, though, you got to kind of respect it for being like, right, we're going to tell this story, it's going to be a good story, but we're going to sacrifice the exploration part of it.
I think that's like, I have no problem with the game. It's just, it's not a Zelda game. That's not Zelda. Zelda is not linear. That's the whole thing. Like, just, this could have been you could have told this story with any other game, and I just don't think you should do that in a Zelda game, and I'm really hopefully we got some nice transition here, that with the game that's about to come out, the game that's about to come out, it goes way back to their roots, and where Zelda came from, and where Zelda started, and where I believe Zelda was perfected. Hopefully they go back to that, and from all accounts I'm hearing they have, but I will believe it when I play it.
Yeah, before we go on to that game that you're talking about, one last thing with me with Skyward Sword is that I never beat it, and I never came slightly close because the controls were horrible, like really bad. And
see, that's the thing, is like the controls were not that bad for me. Like, the one thing that might have gave me some trouble was trying to do a skyward strike. Every once in a while it was hard to, like, maybe it's just because my hand's all fidgety or something like that, I don't know. It was hard to hold it straight up in the air for me, and get a response out of them. But everything else, the stabbing, the swiping, everything else felt fine. And usually when I would talk to people about the controls, it was either people would say, I never had a problem once, like me, or people would say exactly what you just said. Controls were horrible. So it seems to be hit and miss here on the controls.
Whoa.
So I didn't have a problem with it, but would I like to see them do it again? No.
No,
I would not. I just regular controls would be preferred, or at least the option to switch. Just like people on the DS ones, Phantom Hourglass, Spirit Tracks.
Ugh.
I don't know why people didn't like this controlling them with the stylus, and I thought when I heard that announced, I thought it was going to be the worst thing ever. But honestly, it felt natural. It feels natural. It was nice. I could just move them around the page very easily. It was never a big deal to me.
Okay, well, my thing with Skyward Sword is that I didn't have any major problems with the actual controls themselves. Like, they worked fine, but my major problem is that it made the game unfun because the motion controls were used for puzzles. So I don't mind them throwing in something different in terms of, here's traditional Zelda logic, but now we're going to mix it up a bit. But when I have to consider how my sword is moving and using motion controls as part of puzzles, it just kind of breaks down the whole Zelda experience for me.
I totally get you there. It was like almost, it's basically the whole thing of what a motion control is. It's them, by making a puzzle out of it, it's basically admitting that this is a gimmick and it's not the game anymore. It's now just a gimmick because you're forcing it upon us so much. Just like what I think 3D is a gimmick, and it's not. And I would say 2DS would agree with me that 3DS is a gimmick. Okay, and I also think that what else I was going to say something else. Never mind, I can't think of it now. There's something else that I was like, something else is a gimmick. But yeah, 3D is definitely a gimmick. That's not, like, I thought that from the moment it started coming out in movies all the time. Like, it's just a fad, guys. Okay, it's not the future of the world here. Everybody isn't going to be like, shit, I want to see things in 3D all the time. Because, like, no, you don't.
Well, with 3D, it doesn't, affect anything though. Like with my 3DS, I think the last game that I used the 3D on was Luigi's Mansion 2, and that's because with certain rooms they did a really good job, but I can still turn that off and be fine.
I have recently purchased that game, and you're telling me it's good in that game?
Yeah.
I am so used to the game not having the 3D be good anymore, I almost never even try it. So maybe I will turn it on now, and I will give it a try then on because I've just bought it like last week. I'm trying to beat the game before Friday.
Oh, awesome.
Because, well, it's an obvious reason why I would need to beat it before Friday, but
well, I'm the same as you. I just leave it off. Like with Pokemon, I with every game I turn it on for like a minute, and then if I like it, then I turn it on for sometimes, and if I don't,
even
just
thought
off.
Give it a try yet for Luigi's Mansion. I've just almost given up on it because it just seems like, yeah, like I don't mind the 3D if it actually was part of the game, but it just being a gimmick and just there for the sake of being there just kind of annoys me. The only game I think I actually have on 3DS that it feels like it plays better and works better with the 3D
3D
was Pilot.
Land?
No,
Oh.
not even 3D Land. I don't feel it's necessary to play 3D Land even with the 3D. It really isn't. Pilot Wings was the only game I felt the 3D really worked. When you're flying, you could really... That 3D and knowing the depth and knowing how to get through the rings and all that stuff, the depth of perception, it was so helpful. So helpful. And that's the only game I really felt like it really worked.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing with 3D is that I don't mind it because you can turn it off and make it go away, but with Skyward Sword it was motion controls plagued that whole game, and now I can't play it. But with the new Zelda game coming out, I can just turn off 3D and still have a really great time with it. Provided it's good.
I would still suggest you try to struggle through Skyward Sword, because it's worth it. It's a fun game to get through to the end on, but yeah, it's not a... oh, damn, I need to play this game 100 times kind of Zelda game.
Well, I got to the end of the first proper dungeon, and then it was like right at the end, and there was one of those tight ropes, and I tried to do it, and I just got knocked off for no reason. I was like, no, I'm not doing this tightrope crap again. It's awful. So bad. It's not fun, it doesn't work properly, and it's stupid.
I hear you. Preaching to the choir.
Well, let's not mess around. Let's talk about A Link Between Worlds, because last time you were on, of course, we discussed how it doesn't make sense in the Zelda timeline, but now we actually know gameplay stuff. So we can focus on the gameplay, not the story.
Said the word timeline. Yes, but the gameplay, it looks excellent. It looks like fun. The dark, I don't think. See, I think people are getting all confused here about this Dark World thing. I don't think it's going to be the same Dark World as A Link to the Past.
No, they confirmed it's completely different. It's not the Dark World. It's Lorule.
It's more like a two-dimensional thing, right?
Yeah, it's a place called Lorule that is parallel to Hyrule.
I don't like the funny name, but
no, that's the worst pun ever.
Yeah, I don't like the pun. Okay, because they're taking, if they're trying to, I don't know. It's almost like what am I trying to compare it to? It's almost like Bizarro Superman, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to take it a little too far with their like everything's the opposite, and there are just some things like the Triforce. Like I don't know how they're gonna explain it, but this opposite Triforce thing doesn't really make sense to me. That there would be this all-powerful evil Triforce.
Well, I don't think it's meant to be evil. I think it's just meant to be parallel.
Well, that's true. Okay, because the actual Hyrule Triforce isn't good or evil either. It just does whatever the person wants. So, depending if you're good or evil. So, how can you be the opposite of neutral?
Well, it could be a case of in where this game is set. It's in good times where Link has saved the day and touched the Triforce and had his wish of courage or whatever. But in the other world, that villain touched the Triforce, and that's why it's dark rather than golden.
Do you know what I was considering too? If I ever touched the Triforce,
right?
The Triforce was real, and I got to touch the Triforce and make my wish. And then I would wish that the Triforce never existed to begin with.
Oh, man.
Because then there'd be no power left for any evil person to go after and screw up this land for the 19th millionth time.
Well,
and
I mean,
it's like religion. It really is.
Oh man, well that's a risky road. That's a bold statement.
It's a risky road, but if the Triforce didn't exist, there'd be nothing to fight over.
I mean, I guess you would still have the fights over who's king or not.
Well,
Suppose.
maybe, but that's little power compared to the omnipotence of the Triforce.
But then again, in the world of Hyrule, is there other kingdoms like Hyrule? In
They
that
have
world?
acknowledged that there are, and the Oracle games they travel to the other kingdoms that apparently neighbor Hyrule, and I think in some games they do allude to it. And yes, as for this interdimensional thing, it could be something like Majora's Mask with Termina, because that was kind of like an interdimensional Hyrule, right?
Yeah.
It was the same thing, but different.
Although
And,
with Termia, I like to think, I know it's not true, but I like to think that was all just a dream. Like when this was Link trying to find Navi, and then he like dies during it and goes through the 5 stages of grief, and then that's it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that wasn't a dream, but
No.
Link's Awakening could have been a dream, but then at the end they were kind of like, maybe it wasn't.
Oh no, that's a
But
dream.
I
don't care.
That's definitely true. That's definitely a dream.
If they
Alright.
if it at the very end of something that they're like, is it a dream or not? And then it's like, yes, it is a dream. Then afterwards they're like, or is it? No, it was a dream. You can't just throw in the or is it at the end. It was a dream. Let's move on.
But the fish came out of the water, and it could have been real.
Well,
It-
Link
like,
went through a very traumatic experience. He was hallucinating.
oh, hallucinating.
That's
okay.
what I'm saying.
But as I was playing Wind Waker HD, I
Having a great
will
time.
note this. I wouldn't say a great time, a better time. I don't know. I didn't notice it often, but I did notice it on Outset Island when you go to your grandma's house. That she has, I think it's on the door, and I think there might have been someplace inside. The Triforce symbol is upside down, like it is for A Link Between Worlds.
Huh.
Pay close attention to that. The Triforce symbol is upside down. The one Triforce at the bottom and the 2 at the top in Wind Waker.
See, that's weird. There've been
Any connection here? Shouldn't be. Timeline, hello!
See, yeah, that's the weird thing about this game coming up, is that they've been referencing this to other games that aren't on the timeline. Like, have you heard the stuff about Majora's Mask?
Yeah, I've heard that there's like, it's supposedly just an Easter egg, and those I don't mind if you reference Easter eggs like that. That's just if it somehow works into the story, then it becomes real. Like come on, like there's the pit in the A Link to the Past. There's if you go into the houses, there's like the pictures of Mario on the wall. That doesn't mean it has anything to do with it. It's just a fun little thing, right? But so if like Majora's Mask on the wall is like that, then and it has nothing to do with the story, it's just there as, oh, look at cool, it's Majora's Mask, then I have no problem with it.
Well,
But
the thing is,
somehow
like, with
it
all
works
those
into the
Easter
story.
eggs before, they've always made sense within the timeline. Like, Twilight Princess takes place in the same timeline as Majora's Masks, and it had, like, some references to it in the game. But then you wouldn't see those same references in Wind Waker, because it was in a different timeline. So they did keep the references to the timelines, but this seems to be the first one where it's just straight out, oh, we're just going to put the mask in here. And also, the main guy behind it did say there is a connection between this game and Majora's Mask that people should look out for.
Well, that makes no freaking sense.
Nope.
Hold it. Here's the only thing that makes sense. And here we go. It gets even more complicated, and it's almost like they're trying to start a new timeline debate, because while we solved the one for you before, so now that we're going to make some new games, we're going to make another 20 games, and you guys are going to guess where all these games go in the timeline, and we're not going to tell you. So, so here's my initial thought then. If there's anything that has to do with Wind Waker in this game, and not Wind Waker, I mean Majora's Mask, and it's not just an Easter egg, and actually there are story plot elements into it, here's my thinking. Even though it's in a different timeline, it doesn't mean that in this timeline Majora's Mask never existed, because Link had no effect over the Majora's Mask actually existing, right? So no matter how you split the timeline, the mask would exist in all three timelines. It doesn't matter if the game did or not, right? The mask should still exist. Maybe just something else happened to it. Maybe in this timeline, it was never defeated, and Majora's Mask is now still alive and evil, and it's come whatever, you know? Right? It's possible.
Yeah, that's the that's what this confirms. Then, but if you take that, then you have to say that all ultimate powers and evil stuff that has happened in each timeline must exist in the other timelines. It just didn't play into a story.
That's why I don't. And plus, I also have to think this is the shit timeline we're now going into here, because they've killed Ganon twice in this timeline, and I can't go even more crazy over that than anything else, okay? But in every timeline, Ganon has died once, except for this one, which is the Link died timeline. Makes no freaking sense. But anyways, yeah. Or what you could do is, it says this is from the Link to the Past timeline, right?
Yeah.
So why can't they branch it even again? Like, why can't this be like that he failed in Link to the Past?
They could do it for any game. And that's when he failed, actually.
They could do it in any game they wanted. Exactly. So I don't know.
But then the thing is, what do you? Because the big connection would come from the lead protagonist, who looks exactly like Ganondorf, but a younger version. So what would you guess is his relation to Ganondorf? Because they say in the trailer, one guy talks about Ganon, and then there's this lead guy who's not Ganon, but he just looks exactly like him.
Look, if there's Ganon in this game, I'm going to be pissed off. He's already died twice in this timeline, okay? How can he come back again? I'm getting sick of this.
He could come back.
He can't come back again.
Maybe one more time.
Come back. No, not in this timeline.
A couple more times. He's got it in him.
Just a couple of times, huh?
No big deal.
It doesn't make sense, okay? Like once you're dead, and at least they've stuck to that, okay? That he's died, and that is it. And the only way I will accept his resurrection is the only way they have ever said that Ganon could come back, and that is with the blood of the hero. So therefore, that is my theory, that this is going off on another timeline, is that after, maybe this is different. This isn't Link failed in the first one. This is the timeline of Link 1 in A Link to the Past. But sometime in between this game and the next game, he was killed by Ganon's minions, and they got his blood and were able to revive him.
Oh.
Because the only way they've established in their theory thing, is in the Zelda 2 game, where everybody is trying to kill Link, because that's the only way to revive Ganon.
Okay, wait, so in this timeline, what are the two times he's died?
What do you mean?
Well, you said he's died twice in this timeline.
Okay. He is officially dead at the end of A Link to the Past.
Okay.
And he's officially dead in Zelda 1, which are both in the same timeline.
So this game could be the explanation of how Ganondorf came back for Zelda 1.
Okay, I could believe that.
I mean, I don't know. Again, it's Nintendo. They could throw anything at us and ignore a lot of stuff.
But if they go ahead and they think of that, if they actually think of that, well, you know what? We better explain how he comes back for a second time. And they actually tell a story doing that, then why would they bring back the Master Sword, which they promised would not come back?
Wait, so what? In Zelda 1 and Zelda 2, Link just never goes for the Master Sword. It was just done with.
Master Sword is gone. It's not there anymore.
Wait, what happened to it then?
Unexplained.
Oh, great.
Unexplained what happened to the Master Sword. It's called, in Zelda 1, it's called the Magical Sword. But Ganon still dies from the Silver Arrows, which is in Link to the Past and Zelda 1.
Did you know, because after the last podcast we did, I read that Zelda book a lot. Do you know the reason why everyone in Hyrule is living in the trees and in caves? Because it actually explains it in the book.
Oh, for Zelda 1?
Yeah.
Okay. No, it explains in the Hyrule story?
Yeah.
I haven't read it cover to cover, but please enlighten me.
Well, apparently what happens after A Link to the Past, everything is honky-dory. But then, like, all the stuff that happened in that turns into legend and all that. And then the king has a daughter and then called her Zelda, but then she's like meant to be the queen eventually, or she's the one with the power and I think the Triforce of Wisdom or something like that. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. And then
yes, see, this is where it doesn't make sense, because after A Link to the Past, Link has the Triforce. He has all 3 parts. But this comes after Ocarina of Time, which the Triforce was separated into 3 parts. So how it
well, then the Triforce is reformed at the end of A Link to the Past, then.
No, it's not.
Why not?
It's at the end of A Link. It should have been reformed at the end of Ocarina of Time, but it's not. It's still in Ganon's hand, and he's sealed away. So how does it get back together?
Well, then Link has one part. You defeat Ganondorf entirely, so that part becomes free, and then you rescue Zelda.
Yes, but the Triforce is already in the Golden Land where Ganon is.
Well, yeah, but then you defeat Ganondorf in the Golden Land.
Okay, but Link doesn't have a part. It's all 3 parts are already with Ganon. Ganon, in A Link to the Past, has all 3 parts. But it's already separated after the events of Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Then it's re-separated again in time for Zelda 1.
So yeah, so what happens with it getting re-separating? It's the brother
should have stayed separated the whole time. It shouldn't be together in A Link to the Past at all. That's why I really, really feel A Link to the Past does not belong in the timeline they say it does. It's the one thing in their timeline that really throws a skew into their logic, and I can't accept it. I can't accept it. Because it just doesn't make sense that way. Because once it's split for all the games, and the whole point is trying to put it back together. And once he kills Ganon in Zelda 1, they regain the Triforce, and they have 2, and the 3rd one has gone missing. Because it's been thousands of years or whatever.
Okay.
Now, they said this game comes to place after A Link to the Past, but it should come before it's still Zelda 1, because it's still the same world or whatever.
Right. So, well, I'm going to jump back to the story I was telling, if that's okay. So
you were telling a story? Go for it.
Yeah, the story. So the king had Zelda, and that was Zelda 1, and then there was also the son, but then the son became jealous of Zelda, and then I think the king was worried about the son taking the Triforce, so he was the one that split it up to keep it safe. But then I think the brother or the son kills the king, or takes over being king. Actually, I think no. He hires a witch to put a spell on Zelda, that very first Zelda 1, who is the same Zelda as the one in Zelda 2.
Zelda 2. Yes.
Yeah. So then he becomes king. But then because the Triforce isn't behind the royalty anymore, and because he's a dick, eventually the whole land of Hyrule becomes worse and worse and worse because it's not in the land of prosperity anymore. So everyone has to live in caves because they don't have the Triforce and can't protect the land from all of the demons.
Okay, so where is this guy? Why is it only Zelda that's captured?
No, because Zelda gets a spell put on her, and then the guy becomes king.
There's still Zelda in Zelda 1, which is apparently not the same Zelda that the spell is put on.
No, that's a Zelda that's continued along, because it's been like I think it's a few hundred years this happens over. So there's the Legend of Zelda, and then every daughter in the royal family is still called Zelda. So the Zelda in Zelda 1 is just the latest one, but the one you rescue in Zelda 2 is the very original who had the cast put spell upon her.
Okay. but she still has the Triforce of Wisdom, which she splits up and hides, and Link has to go get it. And then once he does, he goes and defeats Ganon. But then Ganon there's a second quest, so Ganon gets the idea, well, I'm going to go and hide my Triforce now, because Link has gotten too powerful, and then he goes and splits his up, and that's the second quest of Zelda 1, and then you do the whole thing again. You defeat Ganon, he's dead, and you have 2 Triforces. And then there's Zelda 2, and you go and find the third one.
Right. See, I don't have the book, but it kind of made sense when I read it, but I think you're going to have to read this cover to cover for yourself.
Oh, I'm going to have to.
Make a list.
I'm going to have to. But, yeah, that still doesn't explain why A Link to the Past is after Ocarina of Time.
I just thought it was interesting that they did come up with an explanation for that. Like, there's a whole chunk of time where a ton of stuff happens, but there's no game set in that time.
Yeah, and like, how does the Master Sword end up in the woods somewhere in a pedestal when it was like always kept inside, like, all the time?
Well, I think they tried to explain that in Twilight Princess, where when you go and get the Master Sword, it was the Temple of Time, but it was just left to decay. But you can transfer it over if that's what they're doing now. I'm willing to do that too.
Okay, if that's what they're doing now, then yes, I can accept that. So that means Twilight Princess happens sooner after Ocarina of Time than A Link to the Past does after Ocarina of Time, even though they're in separate timelines.
Yeah, if you were to map it, I think that would work out.
Because there has to be more time that would pass for the entire Temple of Time to be eroded away.
Yes. But with this whole crossover thing, it also means that the Twilight realm exists in all universes.
Yes, it does. It exists in all universes. It just hasn't been discovered yet.
It's just they've never sent Ganondorf there quite yet.
Exactly.
If they ever make a portal again and just send Ganondorf through, then, they'll be right back.
See, here's the thing. I think they've made too many... See, they shouldn't be making other dimensions again. They've just made too many. There's the Dark World, there's Termina, there's this New World, there's the Twilight Realm. They got all these other dimensions, and they got 3 timelines. Like, man.
Well, it's an easy out. It's an easy thing to do. Just be like, there's another dimension. Don't worry about it.
I would like to see... that is... I would... See, they got it all over the place. What I would like to see, I don't even know where you'd begin, but this would be a lot of fun, is to take all the games at the ending and somehow come up with some weird story or weird kind of game that would make sense to everybody to put the timeline back together again.
Well, where would this game have to be set?
At the very end.
Oh.
Of all the timelines. Somehow all the timelines would converge into this game, merging them back together again, so there's one straight timeline again.
That sounds very comic bookish, though.
It does, but hell, what? They have 19 frickin' universes, so...
They could do it.
They could do it. But, yeah, they have enough holes as it is. But, yeah, I'm looking forward to this game, though. It should be a hell of a lot of fun. And I'm sure I would love to be back after I have completed this game to rant some more about what I liked and did not like.
Yeah, that's the thing. With this game, I think, from what I've heard, I don't know the actual story, but they are doing some interesting stuff with this story. I would guess you're not going to like it, but I can respect them for trying to do something interesting, at least.
I might like it. It depends. We'll see.
Which was the last Zelda game, though, you really liked?
I really liked?
Yeah.
I
doesn't have to be your favourite one, just the last one where you played and was like, that was awesome.
That was awesome?
Yeah.
I won't see. It depends on our definition of really liked. I enjoy Twilight Princess. When I played Twilight Princess and I finished Twilight Princess, I didn't go, fuck, that game had so many problems. Fuck, that game had stupid storyline. Fuck, that game was just absolutely boring as hell. It was a good game, and I wasn't upset by the Ganon twist at the end. I come to accept that he was going to show up sooner or later. Should they have alluded to him sooner in the game so it doesn't feel like they just threw him in? Yeah, they probably should have, but I don't know. I just come to expect that he was going to show up sooner or later, and so that didn't bother me at all. If I'm going to complain about Twilight Princess, it is the start of the game. It does feel, especially just getting to the first dungeon, that introductory thing is probably the slowest in the series.
I would say Skyward Sword is slower at the beginning.
It's slow, but maybe I'd like to time. I'd like to time it out. It might be close, actually.
Yeah.
Now that I really think about it, because you have to do the bird, and then you have to learn the bird thing, and then you go down.
Well, it depends where you would define the beginning, though, because with Twilight Princess
that is hard. I would say the beginning in Twilight Princess is once you finally leave town for the first time.
Yeah, I would say when you get grabbed into the Twilight realms.
Yeah, well, that's the leaving of town. Yeah,
'cause that's so awesome. That moment, that's so good.
Yeah, that is pretty good. But see, it's hard to say where the beginning of Skyward Sword is because it just all feels like one gigantic puzzle, and you never get to explore it at all.
Maybe once you get the sword for the first time, the proper one. Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. It's yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say.
It's a bit messy.
Yeah, it's a bit messy. But yeah, those games are pretty slow. But yeah, okay, I'll say I really enjoy Twilight Princess, but okay, we'll say Twilight Princess.
So you're not... That's pretty good. I'm proud of you for saying that. Because that means you're not someone who's like, can't enjoy the new ones. You just have your own problems with the new ones.
No, I've enjoyed Twilight Princess. I could still, if I really want to, because it's in my nature, I can complain about Twilight Princess.
Definitely.
Because that's just who I am. I like to nitpick, but overall, yeah, Twilight Princess was enjoyable.
See, that's but I can't stand the people though who just can't enjoy the newer ones at all. You know, you can be like, I liked it back in the day and I preferred the choices back in the day, but for people, certain people just was like, oh no, it's not Zelda 1, I don't like it, and I can't. There's no arguing with those people.
I understand well, I wouldn't say they can't. They probably will never make a game like Zelda 1 again, and I don't think they should.
No.
Just because you can do so much more, and I that's why I have such high hopes for this game that's coming out, A Link Between Worlds, because I really feel, even out of the handhelds with Minish Cap and all that other stuff, I really feel out of the 2D games that they had made, and yes, I know there's a 3D option, but let's just be honest, the overhead is the 2D look. That perfection was hit at A Link to the Past. That is the basis of even the 3D games. They still take the same model, the same style of A Link to the Past. It's how the dungeons are set up and all that stuff. This is the model for Zelda, and if they're trying to even if they're even 50% like A Link to the Past was, then I will be happy. So.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. This new game, nothing but good things. The reviews have been really good, really positive reviews. And my problem would be, or when I was thinking, or looking at the game, it's like, does it just feel like A Link to the Past, making it pointless, or is it completely new, which would be weird because it's a sequel to A Link to the Past? But from what I've read, they nailed the mix. There's enough new stuff in there where it's excitable and fresh, but again, it still feels like A Link to the Past and has the same design philosophy with like no hand holding.
Look, I have absolutely no problem with making a game that is exactly, well, if it's exactly the same, then there's no point. But it's got to be, even if it's like almost exactly like A Link to the Past, I have no problem with that. Or even if they ever copied Ocarina of Time or whatever, copying a game that you've done really well shouldn't be taken as a criticism. It should be taken with, we got it right, so why screw it up? Wind Waker. But Skyward Sword. Yeah, so just, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and I really think that's what they're trying to do here, is, look, we got it really right, so let's do it again. But yes, there are certain, obviously you don't want this. It's also about the amount of time, too, that's gone past. Like, putting out, sure, Mario games with Galaxy 1 and Galaxy 2, those are excellent Mario games. I think that's the perfection of 3D Mario. Like, those are the best they've ever done. And, am I a little upset that the new one coming out isn't like the Galaxy games? A little, but at the same time, you can't keep doing that over and over and over again. But, like, let's just say they put out hit and miss Mario games for the next 10, 15 years, and it's just, some are good, some aren't that great, and blah blah blah, and back and forth, right? Okay? In 10 or 15 years, if they go, do you know what, we really got it right in Galaxy, why don't we go and make maybe not another Galaxy, but a game that feels like so similar to Galaxy? Will I be upset? No, I won't, because it's been a long time, so I think that helps. You know?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because have you read the latest Iwata Asks?
No.
Well, basically it's where he interviewed the 4 main people behind Super Mario 3D World, and it's actually really interesting to read. And one thing that came out of that is that they, at the beginning, was like, right, are we going to make this Wii U Mario game more like 3D Land or Super Mario Galaxy? And they all went 3D Land so they could expand upon the ideas they had in 3D Land and add multiplayer. But at the same time, Miyamoto then mentioned saying how we're not done with the Galaxy formula and the way those games are put together, and probably in the near future the next Mario big game will be more like that one was rather than 3D World.
Well, if 3D World is like New Super Mario Bros. On Wii was compared to New Super Mario Bros. On DS, it's the same principle, but that extra step forward to make it feel bigger and better, then I can accept it. But if 3D World just feels like I'm playing 3D Land on 3DS, and it still feels small time and just whatever, then I will not be happy.
No.
That's the whole thing why I felt concerned when I saw this 3D World. I'm still thinking 3D Land. And while that was good for a handheld, I expect much more out of a main console game.
Just with 3D Land, I remember having an okay time playing it, but the more I look back on it, the more I just think it sucks. Like, it just, on reflection, it was like boring, mostly.
No, I wouldn't say boring. I would say it was a good game for a handheld.
It was fine.
For a handheld. I rate it differently. It's an on-the-go game. You're not meant to spend, 30, 40 hours on it. You're not meant to expect to, really hunt down these star coins and really have a super challenge. You're supposed to be playing this game at, 20, 30-minute intervals, maybe at the most. It's not a game you're supposed to sit down and play, for 3 or 4 hours straight and be like, yes, I'm at home. And, out of a home console game where I really have time and I just want to sit there and play and play and play, I expect a lot more. And, so, that's why I think, will they make a... That's why there's a link between worlds here. I think it's really good it's on the handheld. If they put this game out on, Wii U or something like that, I don't think that would have been so good. And people would have said the same thing. We expect more out of a home console game. So I think it's in its proper spot on the 3DS. And we'll see what World has to offer. And hopefully it is World. The bigness there. That's why they have the name World. And land just feels small time, small. It's a land. It's just a little land. But this is the world now. It's so big.
Well, I have to disagree with you about the handheld thing. Like, I agree, you can make a game that's more casual on a handheld because it makes more sense. But then, during the same year 3D Land came out, they put the port of Ocarina of Time 3D, which I played for hours and was based off a console game with updated graphics, and I felt like I had, a console experience on that handheld. So it's possible, and I would have definitely liked to see that on 3D Land rather than just this 20-minute game. They could have made it into a more hardcore console experience if they wanted to. They just chose to make it simplistic because why not?
That is true, but at the same time, with the remake of Ocarina of Time, I'm sure there were lots of people saying that it's been a lot of time. There's probably lots of younger people that might have been playing this game for the very first time, but I don't think that was their thought process. And I'm pretty sure most people that bought Ocarina of Time had played it before, so it's a different feeling when you already know what you're doing. And
well, I mean, there's other games as well.
That instantly makes it more casual, knowing that you've already played through it. If I was playing Ocarina of Time on my 3DS, completely blind and completely new to the game, sure, it would be this really big game on a handheld, but would I feel like I would have the time to focus on it the whole time? Because it's Zelda, yes. To the casual person, I don't know. I'd love to hear a casual person that's really not into Zelda games, but would play one every once in a while. I don't know. Like, that just feels like such a bigger game that maybe I wouldn't have stuck with it.
Okay, well, what about then the Zeldas on DS, Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks? Are those 20-minute games because they're handheld ones?
Okay. Point granted.
Yeah.
Point
granted. That's right.
I'll give you that. Okay. Touche.
I'm just saying. What I'm saying is that it's the easy way out. Like with the new Pokemon that came out, I played that for hours and hours and hours, for longer than most console games that came out. So I think that excuse only goes so far.
Okay.
And when you make
how dedicated you are then to it.
Yeah, it's about dedication, but if you make a game that's worth dedicating yourself to, it doesn't matter if it's on console or handheld.
This is true, and apparently that's what they're saying too. Is like we don't want to make these little crappy app games or whatever. So it's about the experience, right? So then make these games as big and rich as you possibly can, regardless of the console. But I still feel, it might be an excuse, but at the end of the day, I do have higher expectations for a game that would come out on my home console than I would my handheld.
Sure. But another problem I have with 3D Land, though, is that with 3D World, because it's that and more, then 3D Land is completely obsolete. But then back in the day, when Super Mario World came out or whatever, it didn't make Super Mario Land or Super Mario Land 2 obsolete. They were their own unique games. They just weren't as technically capable as World was.
I don't know. I would say new Super Mario Brothers, the DS version, feels obsolete compared to new Super Mario Bros. What it is now.
Yeah, but I think that's a massive problem that series has, and shows how creatively Mario isn't what it was. Like, really Galaxy didn't make Sunshine and 64 obsolete, but the new Super Mario Bros. Games, New Super Mario Bros. U makes all the other ones obsolete, and 3D World is about to make 3D Land obsolete, and that's a major problem.
Yeah. They really need to stop calling it new Super Mario Bros. Okay?
Yeah.
It's It's Super Mario Brothers. Okay, get rid of the new. Okay, it's silly. Okay, it's silly. It's not new anymore. It's just your way of saying this is a side scroller. Shouldn't have to say new forever.
But it's new. Woo!
New, yay!
But an interesting thing I read about 3D World and 3D Land is that it was them trying to make a 3D Mario game with the same philosophy as a 2D one, which is why it doesn't have the same...
Which is what I think they were trying to go for in Land, but I don't think they fully captured that feeling.
No. But I think they were kind of already on that path with Galaxy 2 with some of the designs, and then with 3D Land and now World, they're just stepping more into that, which is the direction I don't really want the series to go in, if I'm being quite honest. I mean, it's my personal opinion, but I liked the open worlds of 64 and Sunshine and Galaxy 1. I would kind of prefer that. Especially if you've already got the new Super Mario Bros. Series. You're already doing the 2D stuff. With the 3D stuff, separate it. Don't try and have the same design philosophy with it.
I don't know. I kind of like having the similar elements, but yet it has to be enough different, too. Like, I don't mind having the raccoon tail back and the fire flowers and all that kind of stuff. It feels like it belongs because it's a Mario game, but yet I don't know. I feel like I miss those in like Mario 64 and Sunshine and stuff like that.
Well, there's no problem bringing them back. Just have both. You can do both, so don't do one thing.
Exactly. Like it should be a complete merging of the worlds and
the 3D worlds.
Exactly, the 3D worlds, and that would make them better. I'm glad they're sticking with the tail though again this time instead of like thinking of another way to make Mario fly. Like, come on, like he's had a cape, he's had a tail, he's had a hat that can fly. What else has made him fly?
Flying squirrel suit.
Squirrel suits, squirrel suits. Like just pick one way that Mario flies and stick with it. like he doesn't need a million gimmicks to fly through the air. Always had a propeller.
Propeller, yeah.
Propellers.
Yoshi, he can ride on Yoshi and fly.
Yeah, okay. The Yoshi's different because that's sort of Mario riding Yoshi. That's more making Yoshi fly.
Well, I'm not slagging off Yoshi. I'm just saying it's another method.
Feel like if they kept changing how he walked to like instead of legs, maybe he has wheels or
that'd be awesome.
Or maybe he has to like ride in a wheelchair or or instead of walking he has to like I don't know. Ride on the back of some dinosaur and everywhere. Like, that'd be... Oh, hold it. They already did that.
Oh.
You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, like, stick with one way to fly and stick with it. That's it. That's how Mario flies now, is with a tail.
Or in, Galaxy 1, he just holds out his fists and just flies anyway. Doesn't even need any of the other crap.
Well, he doesn't really fly. That's more just...
He's flying.
See, this is the Superman debate now. Is like when Superman, before in the comic books and even in the I think they did in the show too for a little while. At first, he didn't actually fly; he just jumped, right? And he had extreme jumping powers. Is that I wouldn't call that flying if you can jump really high. Like how far into the air do you have to jump before it's considered flying? I would say. Is if you were now in the air without any force, that is called flying.
Yeah, I would say it's if you can gain altitude without when you're actually in the air.
Yes, if you can gain altitude without pushing off the ground.
Because that was a confusing thing in Man of Steel. Like, when he learned to fly, he just jumped a couple of times, and then he could fly. But that's a pretty big, excuse the pun, jump between jumping and flying. It doesn't quite work. It's not a strength thing. It's a aerodynamics.
I never really watched the Smallville series either, but apparently he never. They always said like no cape, no fly, or whatever like that. That was their rule, but apparently like he could jump all the time and stuff like that. And people are debating if that it still is like cheating on flying. And it's just like, no, 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 no. Like you were like, it's just a really long jump, but like. I don't know. There's a certain point where you're like parallel, and if you're going straight, and I don't know. There's the whole debate.
Well, I guess it's like a plane with engines. The engines are pushing it forward, and it flies. So I guess Superman can have the same push when it's in the sky.
Like you could compare it to like a space rocket. I would say a rocket going into space is not flying. It's one push into outer space, and then there's no gravity. I would say a rocket actually never flies, because if it could fly, when it came back to Earth, it wouldn't just crash. It would come down, and it would land like a normal plane, but it doesn't, because it can't actually fly. It just kind of comes back, right?
Yeah, gravity.
And it's all gravity, right? So when you can withstand gravity on your own and go up and down at your own, like a bird.
Yeah.
That is flying. If you have to use the ground like Mario does in 1 and 2, that's not flying. That's just jumping a really long way.
Bunny ears. There's bunny ears as well. Although he kind of glides with them. In Super Mario Land 2?
Oh, yeah, in Land... See, that's what I was hoping for from 3D Land, but... Anyways, yeah, he has bunny ears.
Yeah, that's another reason I didn't like 3D Land. When they said Land, I thought, oh, it's going to have all the unique personality that Super Mario Land had, and then it was the opposite.
It's a perfect opportunity to reintroduce Daisy to everybody, too.
Yeah.
Instead of making her a party character, she could have actually been in a game. But no.
Maybe throw Waluigi in there as well.
Yeah, it gets some. You had Wario be the bad guy in the original Land games, right? And then everybody thought he was so cool that they spun him off into his own games, into his Wario Land games. So why not just be like, well, Wario's too busy to be the bad guy in the Land games now, so let's throw Waluigi in there. Have him be the bad guy.
Yeah, that could work.
Okay.
I mean, they need to hit that same point they did with the Wii and the DS. Like, they were such big successes that they then just tried and did stuff with their other franchises. Like, Wario got some games, and then there was a load of Donkey Kong games on the DS and things like that. But with this one, even though the 3DS is doing well, they haven't experimentated yet. There's been no Super Princess Peach or anything weird like that. It's just been safe Nintendo franchises.
Yeah, they're playing it very safe. I think they're almost scared to try anything new.
Well, at this point, right, next year we got Smash Bros. 4, Mario Kart, and then we've had the new Mario game, the new Zelda game is on the way. Surely, with the Wii U and also the 3DS, they've got to expand into F-Zero, Metroid, and their other ones, because where else could they go?
There hasn't been an F-Zero game in a long time, and that disappoints me.
Yeah, I think the last one was on Game Boy Advance and only came out in Japan.
I think that was a remake, wasn't it? I have the Game Boy Advance one.
Well, there was
not only
a second one.
There was?
Yeah, because they had that anime.
That one was only Japan then, because I got the advanced one, and that's a remake of the original.
Yeah. You're thinking of Maximum Velocity.
Yes, I think so.
And then there was another one that did come out, because they made 2 based on the anime they made of F-Zero.
Oh, wow.
So I think that was the last one. Otherwise, it was just the one on GameCube.
Yeah, and I think that game, like, F-Zero's always been difficult, but that game is probably the hardest F-Zero game out of them all, the one on the GameCube. That's just beyond messed up, and I don't know. I think that's why F-Zero isn't coming back, because games aren't that hard anymore, and I don't know. I just don't think. I think they have a reputation to live up with F-Zero if they did make one, and I think they think kids wouldn't play F-Zero because it's too difficult. I really believe that.
I think they could bring it back. Whether they will, Probably not. But yeah, one of those, like Star Fox as well, that I failed to mention. Because next year,
yeah.
for next holiday season, what do they have?
I would say there's nothing. I would say there's a better chance we see an F-Zero game than a Star Fox game. Because, and I would say Nintendo Land on Wii U is the proof. Because when they went to make those games, they at least thought of F-Zero, and they didn't even think of Star Fox for 1 second.
Yeah, I think you're right, because they didn't push F-Zero, but they really tried to make Star Fox work outside of Nintendo, and it failed again and again and again. So I think they might just be kind of done, unless they decide to make the sequel.
It's sad, too, because, like, I didn't really enjoy Star Fox that much, but I did enjoy the remake of Star Fox 64. I thought that was way better than the original. Like, I've played the original on 64 hundreds and hundreds of times, and I've hated it. And I really hated the Super Nintendo one even more. But I thought this remake was well done. I liked the controls. I liked how it played. I just thought all around it was much more fun. I really enjoyed Star Fox Adventures, even though Star Fox purists aren't into that game.
Ugh.
But I thought that was an excellent game.
Me too.
And,
I really liked it.
I really liked it a lot. And I even enjoyed Star Fox Assault. There's one for the DS, isn't there?
Yeah, Command.
I have not played that, and I think it was the word command that kind of scared me off. I would like to try it, but I think at the time I thought it was an RPG.
No.
Because of the Mega Man Command games or whatever that were out at the same time. I think I got them all thinking it was an RPG, but it's not. I should go and try that. But yeah, I would like. I think Assault was great. So. And that might be more what they should go for. Is I like the mix of Star Fox Assault, where it wasn't all flying all the time in your thing. It was the different walking around levels, and there's the different vehicles you can use. So I thought that's the way Star Fox should head in their direction.
Well,
and,
I think the thing is, Miyamoto said when the re-release on 3DS came out, which I do need to check out, because I was in the same boat as you. I didn't like the N64 one, really liked Adventures, but the 3DS one did look good. I just never got around to playing it. But Miyamoto said...
I playing it. It was great.
It looks really cool. But Miyamoto said that if we're going to look at these sales quite closely to see if we're going to do anything with Star Fox. And from what I can tell, I don't think it sold well. So that's really a bad sign for more Star Fox.
That's a shame. That is a shame.
But I still say it's coming, because Retro Studios are finishing up their new Donkey Kong game, and there's no reason for them to do a third one. Like with the Metroid Prime games, there was a reason for them to do a third one because of the Wii coming out, so they had to make a new Metroid Prime on that. With this one, there's no reason for them to make a third Donkey Kong Country Returns. So they're going to be working on a brand new Nintendo franchise, so it's got to be Metroid, Star Fox, or possibly F-Zero.
I think you're wrong, and I think you're wrong. I think you're getting a third Donkey Kong Country, and I think you're getting it for the 3DS. I think you're getting it for the 3DS, because sure, there isn't another. I think they would like to stick to one per console, and I could really see a 3DS Donkey Kong Country coming out, especially with the trial they did with the remake being put out.
Well, that's what I'm thinking.
I don't think you're getting it right away. I think you're getting it maybe another year or two even, but I think you're getting it for the 3DS. And I think if they are going to flip Retro into another game, I want it to be Star Fox. I'd love it to be F-Zero, but I don't think it's going to be. I think if they're getting them, I think they're going to go old school Metroid, something like a Super Metroid, or even the original, just with better graphics. That kind of a style of Metroid game, which I think people preferred to than like what's it called, Other M or whatever, right? Which they try. I think they tried to go back to that Labyrinth kind of style, but they didn't do it very well. From what I hear, I've never actually played it.
Well, they just gave the Metroid series to a bunch of horny, sexist Japanese men, and it didn't go well, surprisingly.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Which is weird.
See, but yeah, I think that's the whole thing there too. I really enjoyed the only game I've played beginning to end is the one I LP'd, and I really enjoyed the puzzle solving and just the exploring and the trial and error of the Metroid. And even though I've been playing in my spare time, I've played Super Metroid, and I really, really suck at it. I really suck. Which doesn't make any sense. I don't understand how it did so well in the original. I can't figure out where the hell I'm going in Super Metroid. But, but I would prefer for them to do that. I'm still having fun trying to figure it out, and so yeah, I'd like to see what Metroid could do with that.
It's not hard with Metroid though. Like, if you want people to be back on board with it and bring back the franchise, just make a 3DS 2D one. You can make some really good visuals, you can go back to what people like, and there's little risks there, because you don't have to try and do some new 3D reinvention like they did with other...
Oh no, yeah, if you do get a new one, I would see it being on the 3DS as a trial, almost like they did with New Super Mario Brothers. They put it out on the DS, it did well, and then they you know what, it did so well, let's make a home console version, right? I could see them doing the same thing. If they put out a new Metroid in that 2D style and it does well, I could see them going, you know what, this does well, let's put it out let's make a home console one too.
So you want new Metroid? The new Metroid series?
Except for just... Please don't call it new, okay? just please don't. Even if you made the game more like Metroid Fusion, I would have little problem with it.
So yeah, like both of the Game Boy Advance ones, Zero Mission and Fusions, did really well. Like, big sellers, everyone liked them. They just then never returned to the handheld market. Oh no, they did with Prime Hunters, and that sucked.
I have not finished Fusion, but Fusion was part of the Ambassador thing, right?
Yeah.
Yes, that's how I got it. Yeah. And that's why I play it on and off every once in a while, and I do enjoy it, even though it's more... That computer thing is kind of like, okay, it's more like, okay, go to this area and solve this section. It's not just explore like it feels like the first game in Super Metroid is. It's still good, and I still can enjoy it that way. So even if they made it like Fusion, I'd be perfectly fine with a game like that.
Well, I think they have to. Like, I think Nintendo for E3, I mean, their big one is the new Zelda Wii U game, but then they can't reveal anything else, so I think people are going to be surprised by what they have, as long as they don't turn around and say, hey, new Nintendo dogs on Wii U, or some crap like that.
Like next June, I think they have to at least tell you something about a Wii U Zelda. They can't be quiet. They have to at least tell you, look, it might not be even if it doesn't come for next. I hope it's ready for next Christmas, but that's over exaggerating, right? Like, let's not get over. But they have to at least admit it exists, and here's some screenshots, or here's like a few minutes of gameplay or something.
No, I believe I read that somewhere, that's what they're aiming for. E3 2014 will be the big reveal of the new one.
Okay, well that would be great, but I think everybody's going to expect that. So yes, I think a surprise would be nice, and a surprise should be something like a Metroid or an F-Zero or something like that. I think that would be shocking to people, but yet a good kind of shocking.
Well, actually, I was just thinking, like, is there any more of the franchises that they need to explore when it comes to the casual big sellers for the Wii. And I guess Animal Crossing is the only one on Wii U they haven't quite covered yet.
Have they? Has Animal Crossing? I don't really follow that series. Has that ever had a home console version?
Yeah, it had one on Wii and GameCube.
It did? Oh, okay. I thought that was exclusively a handheld series.
No, the original. I think the original came out in Japan on N64, and then the first one in the Western market was on GameCube.
Wow, that goes. Has it always been a Nintendo thing?
Yeah. It's been there.
Okay. Isn't there a similar game on PlayStation that I'm thinking of?
I'm not sure. Maybe.
It's sort of just like you build a town and the people interact and you grow a farm or something like that, right?
Harvest Moon.
Is that what it's like?
No, I don't think so. But that's a farm one. It's Animal Crossing, but you have a farm.
Oh, okay. So it is. So it's similar to that then.
From what I've heard.
Oh, okay. I've never played them either. I've just seen people tweeting about them all the time. So.
But that's it. But that's all they've got for the big casual sellers that they had on the, in the thing on the Wii. Because that's what they're doing. They're going through all the big sellers on the Wii, trying to make the Wii U sell until the Wii U eventually takes off.
Well, that's all Nintendo has left. Is their big franchises, and they can't let franchises die. They can't let F-Zero die. They can't let Star Fox die because really you don't got anything else. Let's be honest. You're not the Call of Duty. I think it's coming out, but anybody that really loves that game is already going to get it for one of the other consoles.
I brought that on Wii U.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
I did, yeah.
Okay, could you enlighten me why you got it for Wii U instead of one of the other consoles? Then? Because I thought the point I was just trying to make is I thought somebody that really liked this game, would not buy it for Wii U at all.
Well, you're right for the most part, but the reason I did is because I like the gamepad and all the extra features that it has, like off-screen play, things like that. And on the 360, I've let my Xbox Live run out, so I don't want to buy more Xbox Live to play the game. And on PS3, the control sticks are too loose for first-person shooters. And my PC isn't powerful enough to run it.
Because I figured anybody buying it on Wii U is just going to be a really, really casual person that just wants this their only shooter kind of game, and that's it. And I don't know where this Bayonetta thing's going to go or not.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if that's going to stick around. It still hasn't come out yet. So they can't really let their franchises die because I just don't see them getting third-party games other than the casual people playing these third-party games. I don't see them ever attracting the hardcore market that are into them.
Do you remember a Nintendo though who, with the GameCube, their three big games were Luigi's Mansion, Pikmin, and Wave Race Blue Storm?
Luigi's Mansion is something they should have never have. I didn't like it at first, but I didn't really ever play it either. I just thought the idea of it and turning Luigi into a coward looked silly to me, so I never really gave it a chance. But once I did, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it really makes me wonder why they kept an interesting series like that on the shelf for so long without returning to it until recently. Pikmin, it looks like Lemmings to me, but obviously they hit a home run with that, and they've made more games. And what was the other one you said?
Wave Race Blue Storm.
Obviously that went nowhere.
No.
So, maybe they... But see, there's three games that they all basically at the time were completely unknown, and they took a risk on them, and One took a long time to pay off, but the other one really has paid off for them. So maybe they need to start taking some more risks and try to create a new franchise. Because if you ain't creating a new one, you can't let these other ones die. You just can't. You can't let them go unless you replace it with something else. And you can't replace it with something else without making something new and getting people to like it. You can make all the games, you can make all the blue, crisp, racing games you want. If nobody likes it, you don't got a franchise.
Well, that's why I was disappointed with them this year, because it was all of this year I was like, right, they are going to announce a different sort of game. Like, it's a Nintendo game, but it's one of the spin-off franchises, not the big sellers. They're going to do the big sellers, but one of them will be like a different sort of game. And for the whole year, they've massively disappointed on that front. And now they're at the saturation point where they can't keep doing that anymore, but the Wii U is still not selling, so now they've just backed themselves into a corner where Nintendo fans aren't that happy because they're ignoring a lot of great franchises and they're not making any new ones, and consumers aren't that happy because they're just not buying the console, so they don't care. So now it's going to be really interesting to see if Nintendo is going to return to that creativity they had back on the GameCube and before, or if they're just going to keep pushing more casual stuff and go in that direction instead.
We are forgetting one franchise, but I think they kind of burned themselves out with this franchise last year, and that is Kirby.
Oh, well, Kirby's on the way. Kirby Triple Trouble, I think it's called.
Triple Trouble? Yeah, I've heard a little bit about that, but I'm kind of Kirby'd out still from last year. I think it might be a little too soon. Like, what'd they have? Like 3 Kirby games last year come out? So
it was the big one on Wii.
They had Return to Dreamland. They had
Mass Attack,
and they had the remake.
Yeah, the 15th anniversary or 20th. I can't remember.
I don't know. Like, I'm a little Kirby'd out, and I bought all 3 of them.
I think that was 2011 though.
Wow, was it 2011?
Yeah.
It feels like only last year. So either way, it still feels too soon because I think it was last year. So to me, it just feels too soon for another Kirby game.
Well,
it doesn't feel.
I'm European, so I hate Kirby, which is fine.
Europeans hate Kirby, huh?
Kirby doesn't sell here. It's why we didn't get that anniversary edition. It never came out in Europe because it just doesn't sell. No one cares.
No one likes Kirby in Europe.
No. I think it's fine. I played the NES one because it came out on Wii U Virtual Console. I think it's fine, but nobody cares about Kirby apart from in Smash Brothers.
I think I like Europeans.
Woo!
because the only Kirby game I really, really enjoyed was the NES one. So, the other ones are okay. I tried getting back into it when they re-released or put out all these games last year. I really did. But Mass Attack was fun for a little bit, and then it just didn't keep me going. It didn't make me want to keep playing it. And then Return to Dreamland just felt like Mario, except for with 4 new characters, and it just, I don't know.
Do you know what that game is called over here, though?
No.
It's called Kirby's Adventure Wii.
That's
how much people in Europe don't know about Kirby, that they wouldn't recognize the name Return to Dreamland. It wouldn't mean anything, so instead they just put Kirby's Adventure Wii. It's a Nintendo Wii game.
Wow. Unbelievable.
Yeah, so that's why with Kirby I don't really care that much. I mean, people seem to be excited about the 3DS one, but to me it just looked like another generic Kirby game. Because they tried to do a lot of cool, interesting things with Kirby, and then they just gave up with the Wii one, and now they realise that people just want straight-up Kirby, so now they're just giving people straight-up Kirby.
Well, I'm straight-up not interested.
Yeah.
So.
Definitely. But anyway, so that's Nintendo covered for this week. We spent the first hour talking about Zelda, just so you know.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's how it goes. And the only reason I'm moving it along is because we have completely ignored something massive that happened this week in video games. The PS4 came out on the 15th of November in America. Did it also come out in Canada? I don't know how that works.
It were considered America. It's the North American market.
Okay, so North America is the continent, so it counts.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I don't have that much to say about the PS4, but apparently the big things about it is they're breaking and it sold alright.
I've heard that this is exactly why I didn't want to rush out. I don't think... I'm very wary about buying any new console now on launch because it's almost like what they're doing with games now. It's just like, you know what? Let's just make this thing. Let's just launch it. Let's try to be the first ones to launch it. Let's just get it out there. And if it's broken, who fucking cares? We'll just have them send it back and we'll fix it.
Well, you know whose fault that is.
Doesn't matter. We've already got their money. It's just like what they do with games now. It's like before, with games there were glitches and stuff, but they still try to make these games playable. Like, there aren't... Like, how many really game-breaking glitches are there in, like, Super Nintendo games and stuff? Like, if you go looking for them, there are, but they're not just blatantly out in the open, right? They made sure these games worked. Now, they'll put out a game that, like, everybody will run into a game-breaking glitch, and they'll be like, oh, don't worry, next week we'll have a patch for that. And it's like the same thing with their console. We'll just throw it out there, you guys can beta test it, and if it's broken, we'll fix 500,000 consoles, and the next round that comes out will be better for everybody who buys. So I'll wait till they get all the bugs out of it before I go and buy one. And it's not like there's any games on the thing that I'm like, oh fuck, I gotta go and buy this thing.
You're not rushing out to get Knack?
No. Like, the next
no.
PlayStation game that I am somewhat interested in getting would be all for the PS3 still. Like, they still got PS3 games coming out. I'm going to be getting the Tales remake that comes out in February, my first Tales game.
Cows, have you played Tales? You should check it out.
No, I have never played Tales.
Oh, that's crazy.
I'll be playing... It is crazy. Cowscrazy. I'll be playing Tales for the first time in February when they re-release it for the PS3. Dark Souls 2 comes out for the PS3 also early next year. So there are still PS3 games that are coming out. I just don't feel ready for the next gen yet. So I can wait. And Xbox, they have lost me a long time ago. They lost me before they even announced the Xbox One, let alone... Like...
Well, the announcement can't have helped.
No, it didn't help. The only thing that, like, to even pique my interest, to even try to win me back, they're going to have to put out a Fable game, and it's going to have to be something way better than 3 was, and I'm going to have to be sure of it.
Well, there's Legends.
If it's not more... That's not a game.
Oh.
Okay, I want Legends, please get that out of here. Okay, I want a real Fable 4, and I want more like the first and second ones. If it's like 3, just forget. I'll skip it. I'll give up on that franchise.
Well, you must be getting
the only franchise
you must be getting the
holding me
HD
to it.
anniversary one though.
What?
They're remaking Fable 1 on the 360.
They are?
Yeah, it was meant to come out this
Really?
year, but it got delayed until next February, I think.
They're remaking it. Are they remaking the original game or the Lost Chapters?
I believe it's the Lost Chapters.
Yeah, I guess that's okay.
You
but
don't have to play the Lost Chapters bit. Just beat the boss and put the controller down.
I guess. It's okay. It just... I don't know. It didn't feel... That just felt like... I don't know. Just... It didn't feel like it was part of the story. It just felt like they just threw that crap in there.
Or maybe they'll add it in earlier in the game or something. I don't know.
Yeah, if they did that, then that'd be okay. If they made it fit better, yeah, instead of just a bunch of extra crap. Here you go. But yeah, like, no, I probably won't be getting that because I don't see the reason to. My Xbox still works. The original Fable is a backwards compatible game for 360, so
You can download it from Xbox Live still.
there you go, you can download it. So yeah, my motivation to get it just for graphics, no, graphics have never been important to me. I'd still be happy playing 8-bit games my whole life as long as the games were fun. And I don't know,
So the guy who brought Wind Waker HD is not getting Fable HD, even though he really likes Fable.
I don't like it as much as Zelda.
Oh, I see. So if Fable didn't shit the bed later on, then you might get it.
They can make a Zelda game where all you do is Link sits on a toilet and takes a big fucking turd until he rises into the sky, up the skyloft, sitting on a pile of shit. And that's the entire game. And then you throw shit again, maybe, and then you win. And if they put the word Zelda on the front cover, I'll be buying.
And your biggest complaint would be, how did Ganondorf come back again? This is bullshit. That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. I could believe that Link could shit a mountain into the sky before I could believe that Ganon can come back to life for a third time in the same timeline.
Oh god.
So yeah, so Xbox, I'm basically out on that. But PlayStation, eventually, one day I will eventually get it. But
Yeah, I think for me,
right away?
maybe when Watch Dogs comes out, I'll probably pick one up. But yeah, Sony are saying how only 0.4% of the PS4s are breaking, which apparently is fine. Like, that's not a problem. But then the problem is that the broken HDMI ports, apparently the problem is that there's a little bit of metal sticking up where it shouldn't be. So you plug in your HDMI and it just rips through all the connectors. So that's why it doesn't work. And that seems like a serious problem. Like, that's not like a little thing, a little bug or anything like that. That's ripping through metal. So, I mean, I blame Microsoft for this, because I blame Microsoft for everything. Because it was them that came up with this philosophy of, we'll release the 360, it's not done, but we'll get it out first, and it'll be fine. And then this whole thing of consoles now just break all the time.
well, the original PS3 wasn't without its problems either. Like the original PS3 that they put out with the fat one there, those ones, I believe, every console sooner or later got the flashing light of death. No matter how long it took, eventually that thing would die because it would burn itself out, which happened to me not too long ago, actually.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, but that's because I used it less and I didn't own it right away. But yeah, I eventually got one, and it happened to all of them. So my brother got it, and my friends got it. They all had theirs originally burn out. So maybe this time, having them break within the first 5 seconds of getting it home, and maybe not even getting to turn it on, is actually a good thing, rather than having to, sit around and figure out that, take months to figure out that something is wrong. You just get it out of the way right away. It's broken, take it back, and then it'll be perfect right after that.
Maybe. That's pretty optimistic. I hope this one doesn't break. Go out and spend hundreds of pounds, and it's like, it might or might not break.
Yeah, good.
It's the thing, like, when I was a kid, it would be like, I remember getting my GameCube at Christmas, opening it up, playing Super Mario Sunshine and Star Fox Adventures, having a great time. I can't imagine if I opened it up and it was just like, oh, I plugged it in and the metal ripped the connector apart, so now I just can't play it.
Well, welcome to the future.
You gotta roll the dice sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
Like, imagine, think of all the kids of the parents buy the PS4 and it doesn't work on the day.
Well, think back. Think back, okay? Like, here's the problem with people now. I'm sorry, people. I know you're all part of the human race, but you're fucking stupid. Okay? You're all stupid. You're all idiots. I'm sorry. I'm part of the human race, so apparently I'm stupid too. But the problem here is that, is Sony going to be punished for this? No. You, as the consumer, will not punish Sony for this at all. And honestly, is there really an alternative? What, are you all gonna go to Microsoft now and buy your Xboxes to punish them?
Hell
Please,
no.
they've screwed up. They've screwed up just as badly. So, and it's not like, Wii's doing anything great. So as long as they can get away with it, they'll keep doing it. You have to, like back in the day when it was like the Nintendo Sega Wars, like if you would have brought home your original Nintendo or your Super Nintendo and it was broken like that to shit, odds are they would have lost you as a customer. You would have went to the other one. Like, it wasn't like, oh god, I really need Mario or I really need this. It was like, it was like you would have picked one or the other and that was it. It was, you had your separate games and, so like, yeah, I can imagine if I would have bought my Super Nintendo or whatever and it was broken to shit, Nintendo would have been punished for that because, yeah, they would have lost customers to Sega. And that's just not happening anymore. People are too goddamn loyal.
It's just amazing, like, the amount of problems the Xbox or the 360 had with just most of them broke, and people just having to get more and more Xboxes and having to buy the Slim. Like, Microsoft's solution to that was, let's release a new one that's more expensive and people will buy it. And everyone did. Because it's like, oh, is this the one that doesn't break? Oh, I'll buy that as well as the one that's already broken. And that's completely acceptable. Like, that process is fine. And the 360 has sold 80 million units worldwide.
If they can scam you out of some more money, they will. It's like why do they keep putting out re-releases of like TV shows and movies? Like, I know some people that buy let's take Star Wars or Star Trek or something that's really crazy like that, and they've re-released it on DVD or whatever or HD or whatever, like super collector sets and stuff, and you buy it like 19,000 times. As long as they can keep taking your money, they're going to until you, like, the market decides. So unless you're gonna stand up to them and be like, "This is bullshit. You're not getting my money now because you screwed up," they'll do it again. They'll do it for the next console, and they'll do it for the next one after that.
Well, then we could head towards another console crash, where the whole market is just ruined because they're just putting out these boxes that don't work. Like, in the next 5 years, PC gaming could really take over if console gaming doesn't step it up and make sure the console works.
I'm not really in. Do you know what? Consoles could be dead soon, and that's sad. But it might be the best thing for it if they all died and then one emerges, and we just got. And you start the process over again, right? So, because I don't know, because I just think there's too much right now, and like I said, there's no accountability. There's got to be accountability. You can't just make mistakes and not have no repercussions. So.
See, it's really weird though, because most people prefer the consoles over the PC market because it's a lot more convenient to just plug in a console and put in the disc. But if that console could also be broken and you have to call someone or go down to a shop and deal with that, that's not more convenient than just turning on your laptop or PC that does work. It's really weird how people work like that. They don't mind if there's potential for there to be less hassle, they'll go for that rather than guaranteed a small amount of hassle.
The problem with PC gaming, though, is unlike a console, you can get a console. You could probably get 10. You could probably get more than 10 years out of a console if you really wanted to. Like, if you take a look at it right now, like if all three companies really didn't admit that they had another console coming, and we were still stuck with Wii, PlayStation 3, and Xbox 360, and none of them were talking about a new console, would anybody be upset? I don't think so. Nobody would be like, oh shit, we really need a new console, these graphics are horrible, really need this stuff, we need it so badly. Nobody would be that upset. They would still be happy playing all these games and stuff like that. With a PC, PCs move too quickly. Like, the moment you buy, it's like a car. The moment you buy a PC, it's already outdated. They've already come up with faster processors and stuff. And my computer's so good that I can't play some of the PC games I used to enjoy in the past because my computer's now so good it can't play an older game, which doesn't make any sense to me. But somehow that's how it works on PC. On console, that's not gonna happen. So that's why I still like my old consoles, is no matter how ancient a game gets, I can still play it.
Yeah, I will always
PC,
prefer consoles too, but with PC they really are sorting out a few things, like you can now just use a 360 controller for most games, and games are really cheap, and also the jump between PCs isn't as big as it used to be. It's like a laptop or a PC will last a lot longer unless you want to play on ultra spec. So they're sorting it out, and the potential is there, but I don't think they actually will take over, or the Steam box. I don't think that will do anything. But then consoles at the same time are in a really weird spot. It's like this generation is completely different to all other generations. Like, there was an 8-year gap. The consoles aren't that big of a jump in power. They're still pretty expensive. No. There's not that many new games coming out that people want. So the fact that the PS4 was able to sell 1 million copies in the US is interesting, but I still predict that this generation doesn't sell that great in the first year overall.
Games are becoming a lot like movies. I think they've run out of ideas, and all you can keep doing is making the same thing over and over again.
Well, I think they're trying to copy movies at this point.
Well, we've rebooted like Batman, Superman, and Spider-Man 5 times now. So let's just reboot all these games again.
Castlevania, Prince of Persia.
Yeah, it's nobody's when was the last game that was original that's started to turn into a franchise come out? Like
Assassin's Creed, maybe?
And they're up to the 4th one in that series already?
Technically, the 6th, I think.
Okay, well, there you go. So that just says it's been a while since like a really original game has came out and turned into a series. So
I think there could be other ones, but not massive hits though.
Nothing that's really taken over. Yeah, there could be little ones that are out there that have played, but nothing that really pops out is like, wow, that's a big game.
Like there was Dead Space,
like it's really made
but now that's terrible.
Yeah.
And then there was like all the Microsoft ones are now dead. Like with Gears of War, Halo 4 sucked in my opinion. A lot of those are kind of gone. I guess Mass Effect.
But even those, like Halo started way back in the Xbox days. Like, I mean, the beginning of the franchise, you know. So
I don't think there's any in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Like there was that big push in like the mid of the generation for new, IPs and things like that. That did happen, but now it's just gone in the opposite direction, where we've got the new IPs, we've got the graphics, we've settled.
Yeah, like I said, even the games I'm looking forward to on PlayStation 3 that are coming out, one's a remake and the other one's Dark Souls 2, which is technically the 3rd game in the franchise. So,
well, yeah, I guess Demon Souls then, I suppose.
Yeah, Demon Souls.
That's it.
Yeah, so there's nothing original there.
Well, I guess there's the indie game market coming up, though, so if you do want original stuff, there is a lot of cool games going on in that scene. I don't play them, but...
There is, but, like, usually I'm not the one willing to take the risk on an indie game. I'm usually sitting back and waiting, and I'm seeing what happens, and and that kind of means I might be missing something out there that could be good, because I'm the one not willing to take the risk on it, right? So... I don't know. I kind of wait to see what emerges, or I do take a risk on a game, like and I buy many years ago, like I buy Castle Crashers for PS3. Nobody ever plays it with me, and now that it's cool in the last year or so, everybody has it on PC, and still nobody can play it with me. So,
well, I've got it on 360, so that's where you're going wrong.
Oh, there's my problem. See, that's the other thing. It's like I would like to make. Do you know what that might? I know they will never ever agree, but there's got to be some way to make that profitable. Is to have the online can play compatible somehow. Like that would be just gigantic if a game could do that and somehow work out some kind of way that everybody is compensated somehow, because that would make that game really big.
Well,
if it didn't matter which console you got it on and you could all play online, it wouldn't matter.
Well, Nintendo recently said they were open to it, but then of course Nintendo is the baby of online console stuff, so it's not really up to them. But they did say they were open to it.
Yeah. Well, that's the beginning of something, at least. Like, if they could do that with a game, that would I think the game would sell really well regardless of what game it is. Just for the factor that you could do it. So.
Well, with the infinite power of the cloud, they should be able to do it if the cloud can do everything.
They should. It's not about being able to. It's getting them all to agree to actually want to do it.
Well, then you could do it. Like they would have to start with a third-party game at first, like.
Oh yeah, for sure.
EA does it or something.
I would expect something like a sports game or maybe Call of Duty, something like that, to agree to do it. But like I said, getting them all to agree. Sure, we'll have online play cross-platform. That would be. I don't know. I just don't see that happening.
Well, we are getting towards the end of the podcast because I've decided this is the longest one ever. By the way, yeah, we did it somehow, some way. So before we finish off, I'm going to answer the emails that was received. One of them is a bit odd, but I'll answer it anyway. One is for...
Could you give yes to no answers and not actually read the emails? That'd be funny if you just went yes, yes, no, yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. No, I'm too professional. I care too much. That's my problem.
Oh.
It's always been my problem. But let's go with the first one. It's from someone called Jose. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Probably not. Jose. His question is a bit odd because he just asked, do you know anything about if they're making Bully 2? Which is good, but I don't work at Rockstar, so you're kind of asking the wrong person. You probably want to...
I have not heard anything about that, and if Rockstar is going to make a game other than Grand Theft Auto games, I really want to see a Red Dead Redemption 2, so...
Well, actually, they did say a few months ago that, or Take-Two, the company that owns Rockstar and the Big Daddy company, said that they want to make franchises out of Bully and Red Dead. So the fact that they've already made a Grand Theft, GTA 5 is out, that means I think Rockstar are going to make a sequel to one of those games. Because they do original games, but I think that's what they're working on, a sequel to one of those two.
Would you call that original, though?
Well, they do make original ones. L.A. Noire was like a new concept.
I'm just saying, like, in your mind, is that, like, is Red Dead an original game? because it's basically Grand Theft Auto just in a cowboy setting.
And I think that's an original enough, I would say.
Okay.
In terms
okay.
of AAA titles...
I wanted to know your opinion of original.
Well, I think in terms of AAA titles, it's kind of a bit of a different beast to... It's...
Oh, for sure. Because, yeah, I'll play Red Dead Redemption all day long, but I wouldn't touch Grand Theft Auto,
No.
with a 20-foot pole. So, yeah, like, it's original enough to get me to play it. So.
And it was awesome. Like, actually really good.
It was so good. Oh my god, I want a second one so bad.
Next gen. PS4. Okay, so the
only game I'm anticipating more is Beyond Good and Evil 2, which will never ever happen. They just maybe next year.
No, there's a trailer that came out
hell
4 years ago. It's on the way.
Oh, well, tied me over.
Well, that might be on the way though, because they finished Legends.
I'm sure at this E3 they will say absolutely nothing, and then if a reporter asks them any questions, Ubisoft, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, it's not dead yet. We're still working on it. We were just busy making another Rayman game." Fuck you, Ubisoft.
I think it's on the way. And by the way, with Rayman Legends being delayed by 6 months when it was, I think that meant Beyond Good and Evil 2 got delayed by 6 months. Because it's the same team, and that's what they will be moving on to.
Well, why can't they just delay Rayman for like another 4 years and then start saying, "Oh yeah, we're busy working on Beyond Good and Evil 2. Sorry, guys."
Well, it was like they made that new engine, and they were really happy about it, and Origins turned out good, so they just straight away wanted to make another one. But then they can't just straight away make a new one, so I think we'll get Beyond Good and Evil 2 eventually.
I hated admitting that Origins was actually kind of fun. I played it over at my brother's place. I don't own it.
Yes!
But sort of fun, actually.
Okay.
What's the next question?
Next question. And the final one. Got two. Some guy called Chris. He rants on about how terrible Google is. Which is fair enough. I can definitely relate to that.
Run, hell, Google. Yet again, same premise here. Google is not being punished for their mistakes. Same thing. Everybody gets away with any shit they want to do now. Google can just do whatever the fuck they want. Everybody complains. Everybody bitches. But at the end of the day, Google's still going to get the most search engine things. They're still going to have YouTube. Everybody's going to be going there. Everybody's going to be using it. No accountability. They'll just keep fucking you over every day and every night until you stop paying them attention.
Well,
if everybody band together and said, "You know what? We won't use YouTube. Not one view. There will not be one view on YouTube for a week." Do you know how quickly they would change it? They would change it in a second. It would be back to the YouTube you know and love tomorrow. But do you know what? Nobody's going to band together. Do you know how hard it is to get people to do things now? It's messed up.
Well, it's the same with the consoles and YouTube. It's the same thing. There's no alternative or there's no proper competition like there used to be.
If there was competition to YouTube, there are other video sharing sites, but they don't even come close to YouTube. So they can be like, sure, we can screw YouTube up as much as we want because it's still the best there is. There's nothing they can do about it.
Yeah, if you offer a great service, even if you're just awful in all other regards, people will put up with it.
Exactly.
And that's what Chris was kind of saying, pretty much. And his question is...
Oh, he has a question. It's not just a
yeah. What do you think will overtake Call of Duty? Which... what will replace it?
If Battlefield hasn't, then...
Well, there's no way Battlefield will. It just doesn't get the numbers, and it's a PC game mostly. So I don't think Battlefield ever will.
Then until people are just sick of playing Call of Duty, which doesn't seem like that's going to happen anytime soon.
You'll be surprised.
Nothing.
Like, the figures are down this year with Ghosts from Black Ops 2, and that's the first time since Modern Warfare 1 that they've been down.
Well, it's an encouraging sign then.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's just nothing will really take over Call of Duty. I mean, the big question is how long will yearly releases continue on for? And I think for a while,
nothing's going to come up and beat Call of Duty. Call of Duty's got to beat itself into the ground.
Yeah, and I think, it will keep going. It will definitely keep going, but I don't think it will be replaced because you can't beat that online multiplayer, pick it up every year, fast-paced arcade experience. You just can't beat it unless something replaces it entirely. So it's really hard to predict something that big that would replace it entirely.
Yeah. Put it out every year. See, that's the other thing. That's kind of like... It's kind of... Call of Duty is sort of like... In comparison, too, with the fan base, it's sort of like a pop star, like a Katy Perry or Rihanna or something like that, who has to put out this bubblegum music every year so people don't forget about them. Because if they go away like other musical artists do for like a couple of years or so without an album, 2, 3, 4, 5, they might get forgotten about and left behind. So they keep putting out albums all the time so you never forget about them. Cash in now before it's too late. And that's kind of like Call of Duty. Just keep going. Rake in the money now and just keep making the money, and when we burn us, and the people out there playing, they'll decide when we burn out.
Because that's the thing, it has its haters, but then it's not up to them.
Yep.
They don't like it, they don't buy it, it's not up to them at all.
Exactly.
It's the people that buy it.
The haters, yeah, exactly. The haters, you can have as many haters. That's why frickin' Justin Bieber still exists. There's probably more people that dislike Justin Bieber on the face of this earth, but that doesn't matter. That doesn't make money, and it definitely doesn't take money away.
No.
It's all about how much is coming in.
Yep. So with Call of Duty, it's just nothing will overtake it, because once it's done with its model and the way it does things, then that model is ruined forever, like Guitar Hero. Once Activision was done with it, that model was ruined forever. So the same thing will happen here. I reckon it will be a case of Ghost was really bland, so eventually during this generation they're going to reinvent it, and people are going to hate it, and then the actual Call of Duty fans crowd, then they'll be done with it, and they'll move on to Titanfall, or maybe there'll just be so many other alternatives to Call of Duty that it kind of dies out that way. Because there's always that large online community playing first-person shooters, they're just willing to they'll just make the jump to something else.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's going to do it for the podcast, actually. I'm afraid.
Woo!
It's been over 2 hours. I think it's time to put this one to bed. So much Zelda talk.
We can go back to that if you want.
Nope. I think we covered it. See, I think the next time I've got to ask you the things you like about A Link to the Past, and just have a positive experience.
That's possible.
Because it's always, doesn't the Wind Waker suck? And you're like, yeah, but it could be...
Hey, I think I tried my best to give positive reviews about the Wind Waker today. This might be the only time I've said positive things about the Wind Waker ever.
I still see it as steps forward.
My life.
As progress.
I said some very nice things about the Wind Waker today. I said it was better than Skyward Sword.
See, I feel like I'm a therapist, and I'm doing couples therapy between you and Wind Waker. It's like, why don't you say something nice about the game instead of something negative? Which you did, so that's good.
I was very nice about the game, but yes. See, that's if you tried to get me to have a podcast about Link to the Past and just saying positive stuff, it definitely wouldn't be 2 hours long. No. I'd be done in like 15 minutes just because it's a great game, but you can never rant about good news.
No, it's like, that's amazing. I liked it.
I liked it. It was great. That's why newspapers are full of bad news, because there's more to talk about.
It always ends on a depressing note.
Yeah,
It just has to be.
it's true though.
Alright, well, thank you for joining me once again, Cowscrazy.
Woohoo!
I'll try and make sure the break isn't quite so long, because I think the last one was like August, and that's ridiculous. That's no good.
Ridiculous.
Hmm.
Well, I will let you know when I have completed A Link Between Worlds, and you can have me on anytime after that, and I will discuss my thoughts on it. Unless that's too soon for spoilers, I don't know.
We'll figure it out, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
But yeah, so go check out Cowscrazy channel for Let's Plays, and of her already gave the big plug to Soul Silver and Lone Wolf, but that really is a great Let's Play, and if as long as you don't mind the guy not being an expert, it's like a really entertaining watch.
I'm not an expert at anything.
But I find that boring, the Pokemon Let's Plays where they're experts. It's like, we get it, stat boosts. No, I don't care. I can Google that. I can't Google someone being awful and not knowing anything.
Google being awful.
Yeah, just.
If you Google being awful, you might get a link to my channel.
But if you're bad at something and you can play it and make it entertaining, that's unique. But if you're just good at something or good at a game, that's a million people are good at that game. No one cares.
A million, huh?
Well, roughly.
And I'm the only one that sucks?
A lot of people play Pokemon. A lot of people.
I've noticed.
Alright, well, yeah, thanks once again, Cowscrazy, and I will see you next week.
Alright, goodbye everybody. Moo!